Coming up on today's Unscripted Faith. In a digital world full of challenges, author and podcaster Greta Eskridge is on a mission to help parents navigate one of the toughest conversations: how to equip kids with biblical wisdom and sexual integrity. She'll join us to share some practical tips, powerful insights, and encouragement for parents everywhere.
And from volunteering as a teen to leading Light of Life rescue mission, Pastor Jerrel Gilliam has spent decades helping vulnerable people find hope and healing with a heart for ministry and a passion for grace-based transformation. He's here to share how Light of Life is changing lives. It's an episode full of faith, family, and life-changing conversation, and it starts right now.
Here we go! Welcome everyone to Unscripted Faith. We are so excited to have you. Pastor Jay, it's going to be a good one today.
It's going to be a good one. We've got some great guests talking about one of the biggest issues of our day. Dealing with pornography, the internet, even AI and things like that. We are in a real difficult time, and how to navigate that. We've got young kids, and you have young kids that we got to make sure we know how to handle these things. And then our buddy, Pastor Jerrel, is in the house too.
Pastor Jerrel here.
Yeah,
I can't wait. It's going to be amazing conversation. Parents, this next conversation is one you can't afford to miss. And let me say it, it's for you first, parents, okay?
That's right.
And get the kids out the room. Greta Eskridge is a homeschooling mom of 4, author and speaker who's helping families tackle one of the toughest topics in today's digital world: protecting kids from pornography while equipping them with wisdom and integrity. If you've ever wondered how to start this crucial conversation, she's here to help. Thank you, Jesus. Greta, welcome to Unscripted Faith.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
We are so happy to have you, Greta. And before we dive into this very crucial topic, give us a little bit of background of how you came to know Jesus.
I asked Jesus into my heart when I was 3 years old. I was standing in the kitchen with my mom, and I said, "Mom, I want to be a Christian. How do I ask Jesus into my heart?" So I've been a Christian my whole life. I've loved Jesus and known him for almost 50 years.
Girl, let's go at 3 years old. Let's go. Well, Greta, you are now a mama yourself. You've got 4 amazing kiddos, and you have really found it important to step into these areas like pornography to equip us and also to help your children forge their path forward. Tell us where this passion came from and how you are helping others to navigate these tough spaces.
Well, like so many others, I grew up was a teenager in the, late 80s, early 90s, and we weren't really talking very much about sex and certainly not about pornography. It wasn't easy to find, and so it wasn't a conversation I had to really have with my parents. So I wasn't personally impacted by pornography until I became an adult. And unfortunately, pornography impacted my marriage, and my husband confessed to a pornography addiction. He grew up in a real similar situation to me, and it was just something that we didn't really know how to navigate. We didn't have a lot of tools or help. Thankfully, when he confessed, we were able to work on healing for him, and that sort of set me on this path of learning more about pornography, and especially learning how to help our kids, to give them better tools than we were given. And it's just grown into this passion of wanting to help kids and especially parents equip their own children with how to have these conversations, how to reject pornography, how to choose better, which is what God has given us.
Greta, before I get into the kids part, you mentioned how your husband got healing. How did that impact you in that struggle?
Well, of course, pornography, the impact of pornography and the pain that it causes isn't just for the person who's consuming or using pornography. It definitely impacts a spouse, a partner, friends, family. So there was a lot of healing that I had to journey through as well. And so, it was a hard time. I won't lie. It was incredibly challenging. But I also really clung to God's promises of hope and that healing was possible. And with hard work and prayer and tears sometimes, God got us through.
How was your husband introduced to pornography, and how does that differ from what may be the common experience today?
Well, back when we were kids, pornography was something that you had to search out more. You know, it was much
Right.
more common to maybe find it in a magazine or possibly videos, but that was something you would have to like go to a video store to get pornography. Now, kids have access to pornography with a phone that's in their pocket 24/7, or with the computer that's, they're doing schoolwork on. Or if they don't even have those things themselves, because some parents are like, oh, I've got it nailed down. My kids don't have access to that stuff. They're safe. Well, somebody else who's sitting next to your kid on the bus or with them in the dugout at baseball practice, they have access to porn on their phone. And so basically, our kids have the ability to be exposed to porn in a variety of ways. It's so different than it was when I was a kid, when my husband was a kid, probably when you guys were kids.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. We're inundated. We're in a sexualized
Yeah.
generation like we've never been before, and it's at the click of a button on our phones or whatever it might be in order to get access. Like you said, growing up, if you want to see pornography, you had to go find it under your dad's mattress somewhere or under a trash can somewhere, and your teenage boys would come get it. But like you said, it's everywhere now. What age, though, for children? First of all, what are the ages of your kids, and what age do you feel you need to start talking to your kids about this?
Our kids are 20, 18, 16, and 13. So we are in the thick of, puberty to young adults. And I think that kids should be talking with their parents about pornography by the age of 6, 7, 8 years old. And the reason is it's so young, parents are always shocked when I say that. They're like, that's too young. But the ideal is to get in front of pornography exposure. If the average age of exposure to pornography is 11, we want to talk to our kids before that so we can give them the tools to know what to do in response to pornography exposure. And that's why we want to talk about it before the age of 11.
So I would imagine that talking to a 6-year-old, that conversation is going to be quite different from a conversation you're having with a 16-year-old. So
Definitely.
Share with us a little bit of what that conversation looks like for those younger ages.
It's actually so simple, and it's it's like a 2-minute conversation. You start by simply letting them know what pornography is, and you could say something as simple as this. Hey, buddy, I need to talk to you about something called pornography. It's bad for your body, your brain, and your heart. And it's my job as your mom to keep you safe. And so if you ever see pornography, here's what I want you to do. And at that point, your kid might say to you, well, what is pornography? And you're like, oh, great. Let me tell you, pornography is pictures or movies of people who have no clothes on. We can see their privates. It's an inappropriate picture. And if you see something like that when you're playing a game on your tablet, or someone shows you on their phone, or if you're looking on the computer doing schoolwork, if you see one of those pictures or movies, I want you to close the computer, turn off the video game, walk away from the person, and then come tell me or dad, grandma, grandpa, somebody who you trust, and say, I think I saw pornography. Can you help me? And we will help you. You are not in trouble. We want to help you. And that is as fast and easy as the conversation can be.
Greta, I think it's outstanding. Matter of fact, I've already had that with my son. One of the things I think is so important for parents to understand is that they don't feel bad about it. Like about themselves, and because they were exposed to something, and they don't need to feel guilty if they've done something, and they can come to us. And they don't have to feel bad about, like I'm going to hate them or be angry with them. Yeah. I think it's so important too, especially as kids are coming into puberty. They're going to have these desires and curiosities and things along that line. And, I had to talk with my son, and I said, hey, listen, I want you to know it's going to be natural. Yes. You're going to want to see that stuff. But, you know, that's reserved for your marital time. And when you get married one day, you're going to have all those things. So I had that exact same talk. But the biggest thing that I felt is that I didn't want him to feel bad in coming to me, or that I was going to be angry or judge him. Because what do they, let me ask you, what do you tell them? They have all these desires and passions, especially coming into teenage years. They got these desires and these passions. What do I do with those, Mama Greta?
Well, you handled it so well. I want to give you a high five right now, because we do need to tell them, if you're curious, if you have questions, if there are things that you don't understand, come ask me. And if you are exposed to pornography, if you do see it, someone shows it to you, or it pops up on your screen, you might have questions about it. You might feel scared. You might feel embarrassed, but you also might be curious. And if you feel those things, that's okay. Tell me, and I will help you walk through it. And it's important as they get a little older and they understand, like those puberty years, they understand that there is a sexual element to pornography, and that they might feel something when they see it. To know that our desires for our interests, our curiosity, and yes, our sexual desires are given to us by God. They are not bad. They are God-given. He created sex. It's a good thing. It's his design and his plan. And so when we share that with them, it gives them a context that pornography warps that and turns it into something that is not God's original plan. But their desire, their interest is not something that's bad. We just need to steer it on a better path, God's path.
That is so good. And just in our last 30 seconds here, there may be a parent who's watching and is like, listen, oh, maybe it's not so bad if my kids see it. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Tell us very quickly, how does pornography, if we don't get ahead of it, what does it translate into for our kids' lives?
Well, it actually changes the way we view other people, because we objectify them. We turn them into objects instead of people who are made in God's image, worthy of respect and honor. We don't want that for our kids. We want them to see people the way God created them to be. So that's why we want to get ahead of it. We want to talk to them about pornography.
Yes. Listen, I like Mama Greta. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, and truly thank you for taking what was a painful moment for you and turning it into purpose for children, for families. I mean, we're all going to benefit from this. So God bless you abundantly for all that you are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. We have an exciting way for families to be a part of this program. Have you watched the Ask Amy segments here on Unscripted Faith? Well, now you can be a part of them by calling the Ask Amy hotline at 412-349-4332. From questions about the Bible to those sticky relationship questions or things that we just discussed today with Amy, we've got Pastor Amy to answer, and she's going to answer well. So call today at 412-349-4332.
Indeed. And coming up next, struggling and homelessness doesn't mean you have to be hopeless. Pastor Jerrel Gilliam from Light of Life Rescue Mission shares how lives are being transformed through faith, love, and second chances. Don't miss this powerful conversation right after this short break.
Stop wrestling with life and start resting in Him. Do you feel like you're on a merry-go-round of stress and anxiety that just won't stop? Or maybe you feel like the circumstances around you shout so loudly that more than anything, you are searching for peace and calm. Help is here. In his book, My Peace-Filled Day, Bible teacher Rick Renner shares 30 teachings to help you take hold of the God-given peace that belongs to you. In My Peace-Filled Day, you will discover God's unfailing promises of peace to you, scriptural truths that will help you overcome stress and burnout, how you can walk daily in liberty and freedom. Ask for your copy of My Peace-Filled Day when you give this month to support Christian television through Cornerstone Network. Give online at ctvn.org/donate or call us at 888-665-4483. Thanks for making us your home for Christian TV.
Hey family, it's Sydney here and I have super exciting news to share with you. Cornerstone Television just hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That means 100,000 lives touched, 100,000 lives impacted by the gospel. And if you're part of the Cornerstone YouTube family, we want to say thank you for your support. We wouldn't be here without you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I got a question for you. What are you waiting for, boo? I mean, it is not too late for you to join the family. So just go to youtube.com/Cornerstone Television to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and make sure you turn on the notifications, because when you do, you're going to enjoy endless hours of content that you won't see anywhere else. You'll see things like the Glory Hour and also your favorite original programming produced here at Cornerstone Television Network that are on demand so you can watch them anytime, anywhere. So we just want to say thank you. We love you for your support, and we will see you on YouTube. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to Unscripted Faith. Our next guest has dedicated his life to rescuing and restoring those in need. As the Executive Director of Light of Life Rescue Mission, Pastor Jerrel Gilliam is leading the charge in providing hope, healing, and second chances to the most vulnerable. He joins us now to share how lives are being changed through faith and love. Pastor Jerrel, it's good to have you with us.
It's so good to be with you both today.
Hey, now real quickly, I was just out in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
And we've got a mutual friend out there.
Yes.
I'm hoping that he'll get a chance to tune in. Pastor Elvin, Pastor Carmel Simpkins from Emmanuel Christian Center out in Denver.
Yes.
You was just out there. We met years ago by way of them, in essence, because I started dating my wife, who knew your wife, and now we all one big happy family.
That's right. And they're doing awesome work in Denver. We send our blessings to them on all their years of ministry out there. Yeah.
For sure. And it's amazing how we can be on this journey with the Lord and things that can happen and how it leads us to where we are.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the earlier years of Pastor Jerrel.
Well, I grew up in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, in Bethel Park it's called. And my dad, I always start with him because he was really my hero. He was a pastor for over 40 years of Shiloh Church in the South Hills. And my mother as well, of course, they were both, they wanted to raise us for Christ. But I watched my dad as a young boy just be committed to living a life based on the Word of God. And I was drawn after that. So I just remember even as a young boy in elementary school, wanting to be like my dad, wanting to be able to have a relationship with God like my dad, where he would pray and God would answer. We saw miracles happen. And so that kind of drew me in those early years. And then I began getting involved with youth group and all those things early on. And I was talking earlier, I remember when this station first launched, I was watching on my little TV, waiting for it to come on. And it was such an exciting time with the charismatic movement and all the things that were happening in this area. So I was a young boy back then, just being involved. And we learned of service through my parents. They would take us to the county jail. They'd take us on street corners in the Hill District, passing out tracts, or to Light of Life. That was my first exposure to Light of Life, was going with them to serve meals there. And they were just teaching us to always want to give back and be a part of helping someone else. And from that, I ended up just getting involved with going to school and moved to different parts of the country. But all the time, God was just drawing me towards urban ministry and inner city ministry. At one point, I went to a place called Last Days Ministry. Keith Green, he was a great musician, prophetic leader, and he had a school there, kind of like Youth with a Mission. And we were there and going through that intensive Christian training, they called it. And each of the students were all getting called to all these places in the world. And I was saying, God, where's my calling? Where's my calling? And we were going to Baton Rouge one day and going into this inner city area. And it was like, my heart is for the inner city. Wow. And people are being called to all these other countries. But I'm saying, God, who's going to bring the gospel here? And so that started this call and this heart towards the inner city. And when I came back after that to Pittsburgh, what really kind of set up the next phase of my life was I became a paramedic here, and was involved with running with Pittsburgh. Went to school at the Center for Emergency Medicine, and there was one day we were in the Hill District, and we got a father he needed to go to the hospital for some reason. And it was a scene I had been on many times. And we picked this person up, put the man in the ambulance. The mother of the children were standing like in the driveway there in the Hill District. And I remember just as we were backing out, I looked up and I saw her, and on her face there was fear, there was concern, like this is the provider, this is the protector. And there was something about that moment when I went back to the station later on, her face just stayed in my mind. And I felt like, you know what, I could be the best paramedic in the world, but if we don't do something to change this dynamic, they're going to continue to be this story played over and over again. And that's when I started really seeking, like, what's the answer? Is it a political answer? Is it a social answer? And eventually it came back to the church, because it's only about a life being changed and transformed is the only way to break that cycle. And that started me on this path towards ministry and towards just thinking, how can we change one life at a time through the gospel of Jesus Christ?
Come on, that is so powerful. And I love that you went through your journey of uncovering, like, is it political? Is it social?
Yeah.
No, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
And when that changes, everything changes.
That's right.
I love it. So you're now at Light of Life.
Yes.
And you are doing a phenomenal job there. Share with us a little bit of what Light of Life is and what are the various programs you all offer.
Well, Light of Life started back in 1952. So we've been around a long time. Started off as a soup kitchen, and then a shelter for men. But over time, the people who were experiencing homelessness changed. Back then, there were a lot of workers that were coming into the area wanting to work in the mills, and they needed a place to stay. But over time, alcoholism became a big deal. But when crack was introduced into the system, it changed the dynamic, and we saw younger and younger people finding themselves on the street, and that was in the early 90s. And then, you know, fast forward when we started seeing fentanyl and all of that, opioid addiction, it really leveled the playing field, because before you were getting people primarily from urban areas and lower income areas, but now with fentanyl, you have people from all over. So, and one of the things that changed for us was that people were no longer coming to us. They would stay out in camps, or they would stay out on the streets. And so we started, before the pandemic, we started an outreach, and we realized we have to go out to where they are. And so we started doing that, sending teams out, reaching people where they are, trying to build a relationship with them to invite them to come in. What we say there often is the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but community. So it's about creating a community for people to come in. And that's really the gospel. What does God do? He saves us from where we are. We're living our life that's hostile towards him. But then he invites us in and then puts us in a family. And now we love each other. We're real with each other. And that's where healing takes place.
Well, you know, you've got this card here that you kind of let me take a peek at. You said we go out to where they are.
Yes.
You know, it reminds me of the whole thing with Peter and John. It said, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee.
Yeah.
You know, if we just give them money,
right,
you know, then we may feed them for a day.
Right.
But this here that we can offer, that you can offer, that
yes,
we can actually take and hand out to
yes,
someone, can possibly feed them for a lifetime.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about this card.
Well, it's an interesting thing. People will ask me, I was just in a church this past Sunday, what should we do when somebody comes up and panhandles? You know, our heart goes out to them. I want to give them money. I feel like giving them money. And of course you should obey whatever God is telling you to do, but we encourage in general not to give money. I tell a story. We had a person who was in our program, and he ended up leaving and going back to alcoholism. And one of our outreach teams saw him and invited him to come back in. He said no. It was a very cold night, just about 5 years ago, a very cold night here in Pittsburgh. He said no, he didn't want to come back. And later on the next morning, we found out that he died the night before of hypothermia. And we thought, how many people put $1 in his cup, a quarter in his cup, and didn't realize they were buying his last drink, that he was going to die out there. So I always caution people, we do not want to help people or enable people to continue down a life that's unhealthy for themselves or for others. Yes. And so what we did was we created these resource cards. Yeah. And so if someone wants to go, you know, we talk about, you know, having a card in the car. You could take one of these and put it around a water bottle. You could put it around a granola bar. And if you feel led to give somebody, roll your window down, you could give them this. And so what we say, if you're going to help them, always give them resources, because what ends up happening, they'll take the water bottle, eat it, but it might be later on. They're in their tent and they'll look at this. And on here it says, why did somebody hand you this card? Because someone cares about you and we're here for you. There is hope in the world. And then we have practical solutions. There are phone numbers here for women with children, for men, for clothes, for food, for showers. And so that information is there, and then the people hopefully will take us up on that.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. You know, I love that, because I've never been a big fan of, well, just take money, keep giving them money, keep giving them money, because then there's kind of an enablement that's happening. But this way we can feed them for a lifetime by teaching them those principles that they need to have. Well, Pastor Jerrel, we want you to stick around, because ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back and share a little bit more with him. He's going to share with us. It's going to be great. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Make Cornerstone Network your home for the best in local Christian TV, bringing you programs like
Because God is holy, and sin is opposite holiness. Our world here today is full of sin, and because of that, Jesus Christ came to make a way for us to avoid the punishment of God.
We Left the Light On for You. Cornerstone Network is your home for Christian television. Welcome home.
On Sister to Sister, we ask, if God is all-knowing, then why does the Bible tell us he's surprised sometimes by the silly things we do?
And what have we learned from our mistakes, and what do we need to pass on to the next generation of women?
Good show this week.
Welcome back to Unscripted Faith. We are finishing up here with Pastor Jerrel of Light of Life. And something you have said is that there is dignity to each person. And that actually calls us all higher. Speak to that in our last moments.
Yes, well, one of the things that we understand is that God created each one of us. You know, Psalm 139 talks about how we are weaved together in our mother's womb. So everyone was created with a destiny, with a purpose from Almighty God. And so what we do, though, when we're born into this world, we often end up going down paths that take us away from that dignity that God has treated us, is intended for us to be treated. And so what we want to do is call people back to that original plan and design. And we do that by loving people where they are, but loving them enough not to leave them where they are. And so we want to raise them up to that higher standard. And so people want to know that not only are they seen and loved, but that they can love others in the same way. And so we create an environment at Light of Life where people can feel that we want to surprise them with hospitality. So when they come to us, you don't just get something to eat, but you're greeted. You're treated more like you're walking into a hotel with a concierge, as opposed to just come here, stand in line, go there, because we say, they are made in the image of God, so we want to treat them like that. And when we surprise them with that dignity, they're like, oh, wow, this is different. Why do you treat us that way? And then we can then use that to tell them that they are made for a purpose, and we want them to connect with the Creator.
Pastor Jerrel, we so thank you for what you're doing, and just the years of journey and the wisdom that you're not only pouring out to people that you're discipling around you, but also to those that are struggling in any area of homelessness in their life. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a joy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all that we have for today. We hope to see you next time here on Unscripted Faith, where you never know what type of conversation we're going to have, but it's always going to be blessed by the power of God.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.